Welcome. My name is Val Cofield. I am a Deputy Assistant Director in the FBI Cyber Division. I am so happy you joined us for this first of its kind event. Today, you will get an opportunity to meet members of an FBI Cyber Squad and learn about the different technical roles that exist in the FBI. The FBI tries to assemble teams with different backgrounds, experiences, and knowledge in order to integrate a wide range of perspectives to inform our decision-making. We are also refining our recruiting practices to increase diversity, better anticipate our future needs, and hire exceptional talent. I hope learning from this panel about the different roles that exist in the FBI and seeing how important each of these positions are in effectively conducting a cyber investigation inspires you to consider a career at the FBI. Remember, you can submit questions to the panel in the Q&A function, and after the event, look out for a follow-up email that will have additional information about careers at the FBI and how to apply for a job. I want to thank the School of Public Affairs at American University for hosting us and their leadership on cyber policy and cyber workforce issues. Without further ado, I want to introduce Diana Burley, Vice Provost for Research at American. Diana, thanks so much for serving as our moderator and host today. Diana is an award-winning global cybersecurity expert whose research takes a holistic perspective to cybersecurity, including the strategic development of the cybersecurity workforce, the relationship between technical and human factors, and methods for strengthening the cybersecurity posture across a range of institutions. Over to you, Diana.
Thank you, Val. I am delighted to be here with you all this afternoon, and on behalf of American University and the School of Public Affairs, welcome. Thank you. We are excited to give you a glimpse into the world of an FBI cyber squad. And I can tell you that over the course of my career in working to develop the cybersecurity workforce and strengthen the cybersecurity posture of both individual citizens and the organizations and companies that sit within our society, I have had the good fortune of working with many FBI special agents and members of the FBI team and federal law enforcement. And I can't think of a better organization for you to gain some insight into how you can play a role in protecting society from would-be cyber criminals. So without further ado, I am delighted to introduce our panelists. First, we have FBI Special Agent Webster Smith. Next, we have FBI Staff Operations Specialist Liz Petrone. And finally, we have FBI Computer Science Val Mazares de Mazarin. Welcome all. Why don't we get started by asking you to give us a little bit about what you do. What do those titles actually mean? And what is your daily life like as you work with the FBI? Val, why don't we start with you?
Thank you, Diana. My name is Valerie Mazal de Mazarin, and I'm a computer scientist of field operations at the Washington field office of the FBI. And for me, on a day-to-day basis, that means working on a variety of computer and cyber-related analytics. I write tools and scripts to analyze law enforcement data and try to bring meaning out of it. I analyze malicious code and websites and try to help with attribution. And I also serve as a subject matter expert in interactions with the public, interviews, and in court.
Great, thank you. Liz, how about you?
Thank you. My name is Liz Petrone. I'm a staff operations specialist with the Washington field office with the FBI. And on a day-to-day basis, this SOS program, as an SOS, it's a variety of things. It changes from day to day, but typically it includes data exploitation, research, and writing reports in order to identify different streams of intelligence and sending that information up to various partners that we have, along with supporting our own operations at our offices.
Great, thank you. And Webster, you probably have the title that most of our participants have heard of, a special agent. So what does that mean? What do you do?
Well, thank you, Diana. Special agent can mean a bunch of different things depending on the day in which you're in the office. And so it's hard to kind of put it into one bucket, but we can do all kinds of things. We go out, we conduct interviews, we do victim notifications, we testify, we serve search warrants, we arrest people, There's a number of different things that we do on a given day. I feel like not one day is the same as the other. I can end up writing reports just like Liz said as well. So it encapsulates a wide variety of things, but I think that's what makes it interesting, is that I never know what I'm going to walk into tomorrow, and it keeps me on my toes.
Right. So what brought you to the FBI? I mean, you all have very different, although some overlapping responsibilities there, but I think that our audience is going to be very curious about what drew you to the agency. Val, why don't we start with you again?
So I was very interested in an FBI career because I was looking for something that would let me contribute computer skills to either the national security mission or to help public safety in some way, and preferably both. And the FBI is somewhat unique in that you have that crossover. You get to work a variety of cases, and being interested in both of those things made it sort of a natural fit for me.
Hey, what was your major in college?
It was computer science.
It was computer science. Okay. Webster, how about you?
It's interesting. I think from a young age, I always thought that I wanted to be FBI special agent, but I had never met one, so I didn't know the career path or even how to get there. So when I got to college, I was interested in computers. So I studied computer information systems technology from Purdue. And that was back when they were really starting to begin the cybersecurity branch and starting to teach cybersecurity. So I got into that, and I decided I wanted to chase and catch hackers. I walked to my professor, and I said, I want to chase hackers. And at that point, it was early in those days, and he told me, good luck, because there weren't a lot of people doing it. And that kind of motivated me. I decided I wanted to do that. And so that's the kind of the pathway that led me to where I am.
Okay, thank you. Liz, how about you?
So I have a little bit of a different background than my other colleagues here. I actually studied psychology in school. And for me, right after school, I worked in a nonprofit organization for a little bit of time. And what drew me into the FBI is I wanted to be more of a help on a larger scale, and be more of an assistant to the country on a larger scale than just in my own little community. And so I actually applied for an internship with the FBI while I was still in school, and continued it through my graduate studies. And I was able to then apply for the SOS position outside of after graduation. And that's how I began my FBI career.
Okay. Well, we're going to get more into your paths and the things that you've done along the way. But before we do that, I want to get to the heart of the matter, because I understand that you all have worked together recently on a case. And as Webster said, he wants to chase hackers and he wanted to hunt down the bad guys. And so I wonder if you could give the audience a sense of a recent case that you have worked and the different roles that you played in that work.
Okay, so a real recent case that we just completed, I want to say it was last month. We were able to successfully indict and charge 3 Iranian hackers for hacking into aerospace companies within the Northern Virginia area. And as kind of a background, what happened, I said there's many things we do on a normal day. I got a call from a company in our area, and they said that they had their server had been hacked. And so we went out and conducted an interview. And then based off of that interview, we were able to identify several companies that had been hacked. And that would have been probably 3 years ago, trying to give you the time scale. It's not like TV where in 30 minutes we're able to go from beginning to end. So in the course of 3 years, we were able to walk it from a victim interview all the way to notifications at other companies. We served several search warrants. We conducted tons of interviews. We testified in grand jury. And the end result of the case was that we were able to successfully charge three Iranian IRGC cyber hackers for hacking into US aerospace companies.
Okay. And Val, did you play a role on this team?
Yes, there were a few different tasks that I was able to complete to contribute to this case and pushing it forward. As Webster mentioned, when you do search warrants and subpoenas, legal process in general, you can sometimes get a lot of data back. So on the data science side of things, I did some IP correlations, looked for connections between disparate data sources and tried to identify some of the infrastructure, think IP addresses and domains that would be the most relevant to this case. And then later on, I also had the opportunity to examine forensically a victim computer, one of the workstations that was hacked, and try to identify a timeline and find some malware that we might not have known about previously.
Oh. Liz, what was your role on this case?
So as Webster said, he went out and conducted multiple interviews and did search warrants. And so that is a lot of data coming back. And Val handled most of the technical information. I'm not as technical, so I was able to analyze a lot of the other data that was coming back and provide reports and gather some of the evidence to help push this case forward, and provided some of that evidence into reports that then later on went to our attorneys.
So what was the most difficult part? Was it in working together? What kinds of things either hindered or facilitated your ability to move the case forward?
I think one of the things that I really want to point out about what the other two do in talking about hindrances is when you're working in investigation, you can get tons of gigabytes, tons of data comes back to you very quickly. And if you're responsible for interviews or you're responsible for doing all the collecting, it's hard to then do the analyzing on the back end. So when Val is talking about IP analysis, I bring back thousands of IP addresses and I need those to make sense. And so she can put together tools and correlate all those IP addresses and point out 5 or 6 that I should probably hone in on. And then I can give those IP addresses over to Liz, and then she can look through the collection that we already have and through reports, and then she can put that, make sense, and then point me in the directions of what I need to collect next or what I need to go after next. And so one of the hindrances, the hard parts of doing this is trying to figure out what's most important, looking for a needle in this huge haystack. And I think having multitude of roles that we can pull together helps us to be able to get that stuff, because I think the biggest part of all of this is it works so much faster and better when you do it as a team.
I think that is so important. And I know that whenever I'm teaching or talking with young people about really any work in this space is really emphasizing the importance of having that mindset of working as a team and recognizing the strengths that your colleagues bring to the table. We have gotten a question, and I want to encourage the audience to continue to send questions. I'll sprinkle them throughout. And one I think is from an 18-year-old who has asked, I'm young, I'm getting ready to begin my post-secondary college career, and where should I be focusing my attention? What types of skills should I really be working to develop? And so as you think through what you needed to work this case together, what advice do you have to give, Liz?
So as I said, I don't have a technical background, so but I'm still on a cyber team, and that really lends to getting into, when I'm in the bureau, when I got into the bureau, I was able to take a lot of different trainings. So if you're looking for something that's maybe not so technical, your experience is really what is important, and getting various different experiences. And for my job in particular, what is important is analytical, and just being able to take a lot of various data sets and data streams and being able to put that together and make sense of it and come up with different patterns, and to put that into a concise report that is digestible for our management and for our other partners that we may be working with.
Thank you. So Val, we've gotten a question specifically about your role as the computer scientist. What is the pathway to becoming a computer scientist at the FBI?
I would say the most important, if you want to be a computer scientist, is to get that Bachelor of Science in computer science. I know that when I was in college, there were a lot of different paths. I know you can do partial technical degrees. You can mix math and engineering. I'd say if you want to be a computer scientist, you should focus on getting the BS, your 30 credit hours with enough math, at least 15 credits. And then when you're applying, interviewing, looking for those technical roles, especially in government, make sure you really understand your foundations. I didn't have a very direct career path to the FBI. I worked in IT strategy first as a consultant and at a chemical company, but I was still able to get this position because I made sure I really brushed up on my fundamentals, the computer and network architecture and any forensics you can pick up. That's really more important than than picking up certificates or learning languages. And if you are doing more of a hybrid degree, if you didn't get your CS career path locked down at this point, there are still other very technical squad roles at the Bureau, the data analyst and digital operations specialist that your degree might qualify you for. So I'd encourage you to go to the FBI website and FBI jobs and really read over those requirements to make sure you check the boxes early.
Great, thank you. Now, Webster, you mentioned that you knew from the beginning, I mean, cybersecurity was really your focus. And so are there particular certifications that you have or that you recommend people have or that others on your team, you know, that's really a very important credential to have as someone who wants to be a part of a cybersecurity squad within the FBI?
It's kind of, the way I look at it is this: when I first started with the FBI on a cyber squad, I didn't have any of what you would call the nice certifications. All I had was the degree and the work experience. And then once I got into the FBI, one of the beautiful things about working for them is they pay for all the training. So I probably have 10 or 15 certifications at this point, but I used the job to pay for those trainings. And so I don't know if I would focus as much on the actual certifications. I would focus more on the life experience, on the work experience, and just normal computer skills just in general. One of the things that I've seen is even if you're not on a cyber squad, the majority of the cases that we work now have some sort of computer element to them. And so maybe you don't have your Microsoft or Cisco certifications, but if you have some sort of computer degree that shows you what an IP address is and how to read an email header, those basic things can take you a really long way.
Now, each of you have mentioned something about work experience or prior experience, and we're getting a number of questions from people who are in the middle of their careers or perhaps veterans who are transitioning to a new career field. And so I'm wondering if you have particular advice for individuals who want to move into the FBI from a different career pathway.
I think the one piece of advice I would have would be just to apply. The one thing that a lot of people don't realize is from application to actually becoming a part of the FBI can take a little bit of time, especially the FBI agent role, because you have to go through background certifications, you have to pass fitness tests, all kinds of different things. And so it can take you quite a bit of time. So just working on outside work experience while you're applying, I think it is always going to be a benefit.
Liz, can you tell us a little more about your internship experience and how that came about and how you then were able to transition into a full-time role?
Sure. So while I was in school, I was, as we were talking about getting that extra kind of experience, I did various internships. And the FBI internship actually popped up as we were talking in one of my classes. And I decided to apply for it. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it. It can be competitive, but I went and applied. And as Webster was saying, it does take a little bit of time, but it was a full-time internship in the summer. And then I was able to transition once I started school back up to do a part-time role in order to maintain my clearance. And so while I was doing that internship in the summer, I worked in one field office. And then when I went back to school, I was able to transition to the field office that was closest to my school at the time. And I was able to work part-time. And what was great about the experience is that you got to see various parts of the FBI. You got to work on different cases. I didn't get stuck in one place. The supervisors really work with you to kind of know your interests and where you want to be later on. And they also do a really good job with the program of getting the interns together to show you what the FBI is. You can take tours down at Quantico. They'll give you tours of the buildings, like our headquarters building, things like that. So they do a really good job of bringing everyone together and really showing you what the FBI has to offer.
Now, Liz, I have a question about your role, and the question is, does your job align with what a traditional intelligence analyst would be? Can you tell us more about the day in the life of what you do?
Sure. So we are, as an SOS, you're doing a lot of tactical work, which is slightly different from the Intel analyst role. The Intel analyst role is more of a strategic, they look at things more strategically. So they're looking at multiple cases and how they may work together. Whereas in the SOS position, I'm more, I guess, for lack of a better term, a little bit more in the weeds, and I get to get more detailed on specific cases. And so, for instance, on this case, I was able to really dig into the data and information that Webster was able to collect and that Val output it from her analysis, and really just dig into this case specifically and trying to identify the evidence and identify our hackers for this case. So that's kind of the major difference in the SOS role and the IA role. The SOS role, what's so great about why I really enjoy this role is that I can kind of make it my own. And so I have really great supervisors who allow me to do things that I'm interested in. So I've worked with my analysts that I work on a day-to-day with on more strategic products, but I'm also able to really get into the weeds, and which is what I enjoy doing.
Great. Now, I know that we're specifically talking about the cyber squad, but we have a question for you, Val, about, do you work on cases that are not cyber related? And can you give the audience a sense of the breadth of different types of cases that a computer scientist works on within the FBI?
Yes, I do work on a variety of cases. I'm a field office resource. I tend to devote the majority of my time to cyber cases, but I'll also assist on more technical matters, analyzing emails and helping with the data on everything from healthcare fraud to sometimes crimes against children. And in general, the Bureau has a lot of opportunities to do small details or to volunteer for work. So I've also helped execute search warrants and done some computer forensics for cases that were not cyber related at all, namely public corruption and other generally white collar crimes. Even within cyber itself, the breadth of cases is very diverse. It's not just a specific intrusion, find the hacker, find the place they got into the system. That's not all the work. Sometimes there's a lot of analysis involved in investigating fraud, a lot of internet fraud and things related to the dark net and cryptocurrency. So there is some good variety there. And it also depends on what field office you're in. Washington Field has a lot of cyber cases, so I get to really dive into that. But some of the smaller field offices will have, their CSs will work on a broader variety of cases day to day.
So this question has come up multiple times, and it's probably because we all watch far too many movies and television shows, but what are the physical requirements? What are the requirements for weapons training, for guns? Do you all carry firearms? Those kinds of questions have come up. So who would like to begin with that question?
I can
Take this one.
I can begin with that. I think I'm the only one that they let carry a gun. So as a special agent role, you do carry a firearm. And so in carrying a firearm, we have mandatory qualifications for that. So we have to shoot 4 times a year to make sure that we remain proficient with it and that we can be accurate with our weapon. And so that's one of the qualifications that we have is shooting 4 times a year. There's also a fitness qualification. So once a year, I have to make sure that I'm physically fit, that I'm physically able to do the job. And that can be taxing. We have to do a certain amount of sit-ups, and then 5 minutes later, you got to do push-ups. And then 5 minutes later, you got to sprint. And then 5 minutes later, you got to run a mile and a half. And so
how many sit-ups do you have to do so we can start getting ready?
So it just really depends on how great you want to be. But usually you're averaging between 50 to 60 sit-ups. And if you go to FBIjobs.gov, all of the training qualifications are on there. So you're going to be in around 50 to 60 sit-ups in a minute. And then you'll get up from there. They'll give you 5 minutes to rest. And then you got to sprint 300 meters. And that 300 meters, most people are trying to get anywhere from 50 seconds to a minute. And then that taxes your lungs. You're breathing hard. You get 5 more minutes, and then you got to get out and do push-ups. And that wasn't my strong suit because I have long arms. And so my push-ups was always my weakest event, but I had to do about 30 of those. And then when you're done with that, you get up 5 minutes later, and then they make you run a mile and a half. And it's hard enough to run a mile and a half, but it's worse when you've gone through all of those events. And then mile and a half that you run there, you're going to want to aim for about 12 minutes there. So the beautiful thing about it, and I told you every day my job is slightly different. There's hours actually added into my work week that they give me so that I can work out. They don't just expect me to maintain it. So 2 to 3 hours a week I've been given free, and they'll pay me to work out just to make sure that I'm in physical shape. So if I've got to chase someone down or kick in a door or do something that's strenuous, that I'm not panting and falling over and wishing that I was going to die. So we have a firearms certification we got to keep up. We've got a physical, and then there's a legal one as well. So every quarter we go to legal training to where they'll make sure that we know what we can do and what we can't do, and make sure that we stay current on what the legal trends are going forward. So there's multiple trainings and things that we have to go through during the course of the year, but those are the main ones that I had to keep up on.
Now, let me switch gears just a little bit. And you know, COVID has changed all of our lives, and we're doing webinars and working remotely. And so members of the audience are wondering, how has COVID and the move to remote work changed your day-to-day in your work with the FBI? Val?
It's been very interesting to switch from primarily an in-office everyday environment to working from home. And I still go into the office a few times a week, but now I need to be sort of strategic about what things I can do from home, which data is unclassified, looking for data sets that are small enough that I can run it on less powerful equipment when I do scripts. And so it's been interesting. It's been very good to have the flexibility to do phone calls and interviews and things, not when you gain back the time that you would spend on your commute. But you definitely have to plan effectively, make sure that you can bring home and schedule for yourself enough productive work to do from home.
Liz, what about you?
So majority of my work has to be done in the office. It has been nice that we do have a little bit more flexibility, where now I can do trainings from home and some meetings from home. But they also allow flexible work schedules so that we're able to not everyone's in the office at the same time. Where it kind of can be a struggle is that if you're working with other people on a particular project that may not be in the office when you are, that can be difficult. However, people are again still maintaining the same level of work that we were prior to COVID. And so we are, through the various different technologies out there, able to maintain our communication with one another in order to successfully push forward in the investigations that we have. And the one that Webster briefed earlier is a good example of that, and that we were able to continue to work towards building our evidence and working with the lawyers to get into grand jury in order to push this case towards the indictments that we obtained.
Webster, how about you?
It's changed dramatically. So just in this case in general, there was a good chance that we could have got these charges in March or April, but then COVID hit and there's no grand jury. It's harder to work with lawyers. And so it really slowed down some of the work we were doing. The other major shift is from time to time, I had to go out into the community and do what we call victim notification. So if we see a company that's been hacked or intruded upon, I'll show up and tell them what we have so that they can better protect themselves. Usually we always do those in person because everyone pretends to be the FBI on the phone. So I like to go in person, you show them your credentials, they get to meet you and you shake hands and you provide them what you have. And these days I'm not able to do that. So a lot of the notifications we do, I have to conduct those over the phone. Now I got to verify myself using the phone system or send them an email to confirm who I am. It's caused us to be a lot more flexible, but at the same time, the work has to be done. So the work does get done. We schedule our times when we go into the office, and sometimes we schedule it in a group. So if there's certain people we work with, we schedule to be there at the same time that they are to make sure that I'm not exposed to everyone, but I'm exposed to the people I need to be so that I can get the work forward. Because as I was saying earlier, a lot of this is done in a team environment. And so someone has a piece and another person has a piece, and you really need to figure out what's what. And so you can do some of it over the phone and through Zoom and things like that. But when you're on the national security side, a lot of that's classified. And so we almost have to do that in person and be in the office.
So a number of questions have come in and they're for each of you. Can you give us a sense of your work-life balance? What's a typical day like? Do you have to travel a lot? Just give us a sense of how you navigate. And it may be different today than it was on March the 14th or 12th or something, but just give us a sense. Val, why don't we start with you and then we'll go around.
One thing that's really great about the computer scientist role, apart from not having the physical fitness requirements that Webster laid out before, is that the work-life balance is really good. It's a little bit more than a 9 to 5. You definitely have to keep your phone on and keep in touch with your team when you're not in the office. But I noticed there's also a lot of flexibility about, especially these days, where I work and when I get the work done, as long as I'm getting everything done. So if I have to, as long as I'm not in the middle of an operation, if I have to interrupt to deal with childcare or if something family related comes up, I can dive back in later on in the evenings or the weekend. And they've been very great, my leadership structure and the organization as a whole, about not micromanaging me and really supporting me. There are times where if there's some sort of emergency or you're in the middle of an operation where you will have to get up early or you might have to travel, but generally speaking, I'm not spending all my time traveling. It's a very regular office job, which I like.
Webster, how about you?
I kind of go by the theory, it is what you make it to be. Now, there are people I work with who put in 80, 100 hours a week and they're there. And then there are other people who get about 50 hours in a week. It's kind of what you make for yourself. On a normal week, for me personally, I probably put in about 50 hours. If I'm traveling, it's maybe once a month, maybe once every other month, because I'm trying to be closer to home. But it really boils down to what role you have within the FBI. And some roles I probably wouldn't take because of the time commitment would be extremely more than where I'm at now. But on a cyber field, the beautiful thing about cyber is some of this stuff you can work as you get to it, and you have periods where it's really nice. But then if there's a major intrusion or a major incident, then it can really be a crunch on your time, because I can't say, oh, hold on, wait, I got to get to it. And so it ebbs and it flows. But the beautiful thing about at least the management of where I'm at and the office where I'm at they really pride themselves on helping you with your work-life balance. And that's one of the things that they promote and preach to you. And so if I need time, then it's no problem for me to get time, as long as I'm getting my work done on the back end. And so to me, it just really is what you make it. And I'm able to maintain all the stuff that I want to do personally outside of work, while at the same time maintain work, because the balance I've never felt that it's gotten out of control.
Liz.
So as both Webster and Val were saying, it is very manageable, and it does offer a great work life balance. I feel that typically I'm in the office close to a 9 to 5, but there are, as Webster was saying, there are some times where incidents may come up, or whether there's intrusion, or maybe another squad may have something that's going on and you're volunteering to help. And as Val said, you do have your phone with you and you're expected to answer any questions or emails that may come through. But I feel that I'm able to maintain a great work-life balance, and I think the FBI really promotes family and making sure that you maintain a good, healthy work-life balance. And the supervisors that I have been great. If I needed to take extra time, or if I had to maybe work some extra hours to finish a project, and they are really understandable and are flexible with you.
Great. So let's turn our attention back to the technical side, and we're receiving a number of questions about the types of tools that you use in your cyber investigations. To the extent that you can tell the audience, are there specific open source tools that you can reference, or can you tell them the types of tools that you use to advance your investigations? Val?
Yeah, I'll start. Really, for me, it's whatever gets the job done. If something's open source and reliable, I'll definitely use it. If there's something that the Bureau offers and pays for, or a partner does, I'll try to use that. Anything, I love to not reinvent the wheel. So anything that already exists to analyze different types of data, whether it's in formats, whether you're looking at IPs or emails, I'll definitely try to learn anything new. I feel like I use such a broad variety of tools that it's hard to even give credit to just one or two for my work, because I get asked a lot of very specific problems about cases, and usually I employ a combination of open source, Bureau, and custom tools that I'll write to answer specific questions. It's good to, even if what you focus on is networking or network architecture, and you're not much of a developer, it is good to be programmer minded. You don't have to come from a full stack background, but if you're good with databases and good at Python, that can really get you pretty far.
Webster?
Exactly what Val was saying. Whatever tool I'm using just fits the job that I have. So there's all kinds of open source tools I'm doing, but for a lot of what I do, there's Bureau tools. And the good thing is, usually when I encounter a problem, someone within the Bureau has already gotten there. So either they've written a tool, or they can point me to some tool that works well. And we're really good about sharing solutions. And so if I'm trying to analyze the email header and I need a custom Python script, then I can go to Val and she can find someone who's done that before. So it just really depends on the day, but there's, like she was saying, there's not one open source tool that I could just lean on or support and say that it's the end all be all. It's just being familiar with most tools and being able to figure out which one best fits the job that you're trying to do in that moment.
Can you talk to us at all about critical incident response and the extent to which the cyber squad performs a lot of activity, and what does that activity look like?
Okay, a good example is, let's say, the elections that are coming up now. We're on call for that, for any cyber attack that may happen with that. And so I'll be put on call, and I'm supposed to be able to respond immediately if something comes up. And so let's say something gets hacked during the election time and it's in our area. Part of the critical response would be, I need to go out to a company and I need to talk to someone, figure out what's going on, begin an investigation. But we're placed on call, we've got our phones ready, and then we just pick it up and go. So it just really depends on what the event is. I mean, in Washington, D.C. area, there's all kinds of major events that go on, from inaugurations to State of the Unions. All of these things we're on call for. And we have special teams that do that stuff. And on the cyber end, usually we have a cyber component that mirrors whatever other components are going out to make sure that if there's a cyber attack, that we're ready to respond. But part of it is just being on call all the time.
What about partnerships with other agencies? How does the cyber squad work with other federal law enforcement agencies, state and local? Can you describe for us that type of work?
Yes, that's very valuable. And so out of the Washington field office, we have a cyber task force, and we also have one out of our headquarters office as well. And the majority of the major government agencies are actually on the task force, and a lot of them come into our office and sit a floor down from me. So if there's something going on, let's say at Treasury, I'll use our task force to figure out who the best point of contact is within Treasury. If something's going on with Secret Service, we got points of contacts there. And so the way that we bridge that is through our task force relationships. And we have local ones as well as national ones through our cyber headquarters. And so we work day to day with those partners. I work on the national security side. So I work with Air Force, and I'll work with all kinds of other cyber components, because it feels like each government agency has a cyber unit, and it doesn't make sense for us both to be working on the same issue separately. So we try to bridge those gaps and work on things jointly so that we can be a kind of like a force multiplier.
So this question is for each of you, and I'll start with you, Liz, and it is, can you talk to us about the best part and the worst part of your job?
Sure. As I was kind of saying before, I think the best part is my role specifically is that I can kind of go in any day. Although I have my normal tasks that I do, looking through data, doing research, writing reports, but I can really make it what I want. And I've been given that opportunity not only from my supervisors, but also just with the people that I work with. And they really allow me to, if I see something in some data that was collected and I want to do a certain project on it to try and expand maybe our collection on it, then they are comfortable with me doing that. Additional to that, I think that one thing to know about government and the Bureau specifically is that there's so many opportunities, and I don't think that you may not know about them. And so what I suggest is really just going out and doing your research, going on to FEIjobs.gov, and just knowing all the various jobs that are out there. In my job, I am also part of a crisis negotiation team. And so I also have that where I go to training about once a month and go on different operations with them as well. And so there's so many opportunities available to you when you're working with the FBI. Countless amount of trainings in various fields, not only cyber, which is tremendous because for me, I don't have that technical background. So being able to go to these trainings and get the certifications was extremely helpful. And then working with both Webster and Val, who are more technical, they have done a great job to be able to sit down with me sometimes on a more technical data and just help me walk through it. So I would have to say that my job is just really unique in that I have been able to kind of make it my own and what my future goals are and to help me get there.
Before we move on, I just want one follow-up on that, and that is, if someone could have told you something about working at the FBI before you got there, what do you think that would have been? What could have helped it and made it even better?
I think, like I said, just knowing that many people know about the special agent job or the intel analyst job, but there are so many more things that the Bureau has. I mean, we have pilots, we have language specialists, we have medical personnel. So there's just a wide variety of jobs that are available out there. And even if you want to, maybe you are a medical specialist, you're an ENT on the side, but you have a computer science degree, you can still go into the computer scientist role and then have kind of like an auxiliary job role within the Bureau. And so just don't limit yourself and really just know what is out there and ask questions.
Webster?
I would say my favorite part of it is the trainings and the opportunity. And so I really like the technology. I like cyber. I like studying it. I want to know what the new thing is. And the Bureau has never really denied me training. So anything I can come up with, if I want to learn it and there's a training course, I can probably get someone to pay and send me there. So the training is really good. The opportunity is my other favorite part. I've been with the Bureau all over the world. I've spent months in London. I've been all over the world because of the opportunities that it's provided me. And it puts you in some really cool and unique situations. And so the uniqueness of it, the trainings, the opportunity, it's just been a very great career. One of the things I wish someone had told me was that it doesn't move as fast as it moves on TV. And I think when we watch TV, everything's solved quickly and this happens and they take an IP address and next you know someone's camera turns on, they take a picture and there's a guy and then they kick in the door and arrest them. And they did all of that within an hour and it does not move that quickly. And so I may know who it is, but before I can do anything with it, have I gotten all the right approvals? Have I coordinated? And I think one of the hard parts people don't think about is the coordination. An action that I take here could adversely affect something that's going on in the Los Angeles or the New York office. So coordinating there, it could affect something going on around the world. So sometimes the coordination can slow you down, just making sure that you're doing things the right way. It's not always as quick as you want it to be, but the beauty of it is if you work your way through all of the processes, when you get all the way through to the end, you know it's been done right, it's been done thoroughly, and it's going to work out for you. So I think that's the one thing that sometimes can frustrate me and I didn't quite understand is it's not as fast as I want it to be, but that's on purpose and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Val, before we go to you, I want to pick up on one thing. Webster, you mentioned about spending months in London. And we did have a question about international collaboration. And so can you talk to us a little bit about the international work?
Yeah, I can do it kind of in general, but what you'll find is some of the cases that you work here might be worked by other government organizations across the world. And so if you can find a partner, and we found some in London, we found them all over, what those partners can help you do is they're able to use their authorities, you're able to use your authorities. And it, like I said earlier, it becomes a force multiplier and you can do things together. And so as with one of the cases I was working, there was some information that they had. And so they were able to bring me over and I was able to look at it and I was able to show them information I had. And what 1 + 1 always equals 2. So you get a lot further down the road that way. Just in general, it's open all kinds of things. You can do interviews all over the world. So we'll work with German partners, the UK, France, whoever it is, if there's someone there that can help you. The Bureau has enabled us to be able to send information, receive information, and travel over there and to get things done.
Thank you. Val?
Similar to Liz, the diversity of tasks and job opportunities and the ability to make the role your own is one thing that I really enjoy about the computer scientist role. Like Webster, I also like the opportunity to get trainings because some of these to do extensive trainings can be very expensive and time consuming and something that's not really attainable for a lot of people as a self-funded side project to their jobs. But I like that I can learn about different subjects. I don't have to specialize in a certain type of development or just network analysis, incident response. I can do those things and also learn about malware and reverse engineering. I can learn about operating systems and some, cutting edge forensic techniques. And then on a more day-to-day level, I know that some people like to stay in a lab setting, stay at your desk all the time. But I like to mix it up a little. So even though I could definitely gear my role more toward that, I like to, as I think I mentioned earlier, go on search warrants and help with the collection of evidence on site. I like to work on projects where I have to set up computers and walk around on a day-to-day basis. I like the mobility, literally and I guess metaphorically of the role, that I get to always be on my feet. I get to talk to new people, whether it's persons of interest or victims, and that it can really turn into a diverse role if you want it to.
Now, one additional question for you is, one of the challenges that often technical people find is that as they get more seniority, they're less able to do the technical work. Have you found that, or are you concerned about that, or are there ways to continue to move through the ranks within the FBI and still maintain a technical focus?
So my current role has promotion potential all the way to 13, and then if you go through some additional processes, you could even reach a 14 on the government scale. So you could stay in the exact same role, but just doing progressively more advanced work and incorporating some more mentoring and cross-bureau projects, and just be in the weeds doing active technical work day to day for quite a while in this role. And even if you were to transfer around or to find a similar role at headquarters, you can still, there's still a good pathway to continue to advance. You don't have to work in the weeds for just a few years and then instantly end up in management. And so that's one thing that's really nice about this career path.
So Webster, earlier you mentioned that the Washington field office does quite a bit of cyber work. Are there other field offices around the country that have a lot of cyber cases and have that as an emphasis of their offices?
Yeah, so cyber's worked in all 56 field offices. Now, I would like to say Washington field office is the flagship and best of all of those. I always root for my own team, but Washington field cyber is one of the largest, and so it depends on the size of the field office. So if you're in Washington field or New York or San Francisco or LA, you might have a really large cyber component. But even in a smaller field office, if you're in Anchorage or somewhere like that, there are still people working cyber. It may not be as specific as what I do. They may work everything: crimes against children, national security, and criminal, all on one squad. The beautiful thing about the larger field offices is you can kind of specialize. And so if I want to, I can only work national security cases. I could only work cyber criminal cases or crimes against children cases, because we have several squads that work a variety of different areas, or I could focus on a certain region. The smaller offices, they do have cyber there. It's just they're a jack of all trades. They do kind of everything because they don't quite have the size that we do.
So we are getting close to the top of the hour, but before we give you an opportunity to do final remarks, there's just one last question that has come in, and that is relative to a lot of the work, or all of the work that you've been talking about thus far is reactive. Is something has happened, you've received a report, and so you go out and investigate. Does the FBI, do the cyber squads ever proactively go and do work? And if so, what does that look like? Whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, we do. So we have community outreach teams. There's a whole set of squad or people, and that's all they do is go out into the community, the different industries, and we'll provide them notifications on different trends that we're seeing. We send out things called pins, and Liz can probably speak to that better, but they're industry notices. And so for this case, for example, we were able to see that social engineering was something specific that they were using, and we are able to then write up that notification, and we will send it out through our partnerships to organizations within our area of responsibility so that we can warn them. We have out of our office a group called InfraGuard. And so cybersecurity specialists within our area are able to join our InfraGuard organization. And through that, we do trainings, we pass out notifications. And so a big part of what we do is community outreach, because we want to, I always tell people, I don't want the first time you see me to be me telling you that your network's on fire. So we'll reach out to people proactively, so that way, if something is happening, they know to reach out and call me. And I've done that to where some people call me before the fact because they met me not during a time of crisis, but because through our outreach that we're trying to do.
Liz?
Yeah, definitely just to echo what Webster said, we do try and send out when we see vulnerabilities or trends happening, we try and send them out to our industry partners and all the other partners that we may have in our area, just to let them know, hey, this is maybe something that you want to look out for or look into, just to make sure that your network is secure. And so we do try and actively get that information out so that, as Webster said, so that we aren't getting a phone call saying, you know, hey, you got to come over because we have an intrusion going on.
Well, you have given the audience a wealth of information across a range of subjects this afternoon. And so if you could leave them with just one final thought, each of you, just one quick final thought, what would that be? Val, we'll start with you.
The computer scientist community within the FBI is a relatively small component, but it's been one of the best parts of this job. It's really amazing how computer scientists from all of the field offices have managed to collaborate and share advice and information. And I've really found them to be a wealth of knowledge. So if you have the opportunity and the resume, I'd highly encourage you to apply and to become a Bureau computer scientist.
Webster?
I would just say apply.
Okay.
If you're interested, put the application in. What can it hurt? The first FBI agent I met was at the phase 1 qualification. I didn't know anything about it, but I put the application in, and here I am years later with a career that I truly enjoy.
Wonderful. Liz?
And I would just say to don't limit yourself and take every opportunity that you can. And as these guys said, apply. There's so many wide variety of jobs out there within the Bureau that I think it'd be a great start.
Well, great. Thank you all very much. Thank you to the audience. On behalf of American University, the School of Public Affairs, and we would just want to thank you as our guests from the FBI and all of you for listening. And I guess the last word is apply.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.